Hey, Brandon here. This is channeled advice on the week ahead, and this is for the week of Sunday, November 18th through the 24th. How are you doing? I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time from my spirit guides, the angels and source that I will be reading through for you. And I'll also be flowing with any additional channeled information that comes through from them, my spirit guides, the angels and source, while we are reading through this. And I'll work with my intuition on all of this as well. So let's start here. So they're showing me a couple different things before we get into what came through ahead of time. They're showing me the word space. They're showing me dragonflies. There's a butterfly. There's a snake. There's a lot going on. So let me see what the messages are with all this showing up here. So space is going to be key even for the next couple weeks. So how can you take space for you, maybe even through the rest of the month, and really make sure you have enough space for yourself every day or every week if you have to do it weekly? And like space to heal, space to breathe, space to recover, even like space to manifest if that's something you're working on right now, is to manifest things, space to get clarity, space from other people's opinions. Mm, those are kind of some of the things that are showing up as examples for this. For some reason, I'm just hearing the phrase like space is key this week. So, how can you take space for you? With the dragonfly showing up here, space is going to enhance your evolution. You might not think so. You might think, well, I've been taking space for myself all year. Well, for some reason, space is going to be key this week for your evolution. So, maybe even consider taking space from people's opinions online or maybe spiritual opinions people have. One message that I'm hearing is like there are a lot of conflicting beliefs out there and opinions from different spiritual people, even. And sure, some of them are more true than others. And it gets into a whole really interesting debate sometimes. And that's where trusting your own intuition comes in and honing in your own intuition comes in, because that's the one of the best paths to clarity, if not the best path to clarity. Honestly, is like your own channeling and intuition, however it's showing up for you. So space can sometimes help you develop that because you're not inundated in what everyone else is saying 24/7. And sure, you can get to a place where even if you're listening to a lot of different people speak, your guides can just be like, no, it's not true. Yes, that's true. That's partly true. It doesn't work that way, but it works this way. You can get to that space too. And I would really recommend you do if you can. It's very helpful. But regardless, even if you are there or are not there, it could still be helpful to take space and see like what comes to you. Like what clarity do you get with taking space for yourself? So, the other thing I'm getting is for some of you, like a lot of different opinions might be kind of effing you up a little bit right now, where you're like, oh, he said this, but she said that, but my guide said this, and which one do I go with? Well, I'd probably go with what your guide said, honestly, what your intuition said. Beyond that, though, taking space for yourself is going to help you to integrate what needs to be integrated and leave what doesn't, okay? So regardless, dragonfly evolution is going to be happening and space is going to help you with that. With the butterfly showing up here, it's almost kind of the same message. It's just there's something a little bit fancier about this one. So let's up with the butterfly here. So the message, like the thing they're showing me for you is like there are these really pretty things up ahead. It's like almost like a little girl chasing a butterfly is what they're showing me. And it's like this butterfly for some of you is just, let me see how they would like me to say it. It's almost like just out of arm's reach, or it's like within arm's reach, but it's like you might have to wait just a little bit. And the message is like, keep chasing the dream, are the words I am hearing. And keep doing the healing work that comes up if you are chasing a dream or moving towards one. That keep going through the healing work that comes up as you're chasing the dream and moving towards what you'd like to have, because that is the healing work, is like the triggers that come up when you step towards more abundance, for example, or step towards a love life you'd like to have. And like all these walls come up. It's like, oh, interesting. That's the path. That's the thing you need to work through. And that's the thing you need to dig into potentially to get to the next step or the next level for you, or just to get to a place where you have a life you'd like to have more so. So I would almost keep being in some ways. I'm not telling all of you to be a little girl chasing a butterfly, because I know not all of you are identify as female or are female. And but you get it. I would still keep chasing that butterfly and let that evolve you and let that lead you to your next steps. And One of the phrases they're reminding me of for you as we're rolling through this is money follows joy. And I realize that can be something that not everyone understands right away. But the more you're in the energy of joy, the more money and things you'd like to have are going to follow more readily. So, can you bring joy to what you're doing already? Can you bring joy into the chase of the butterfly or the dream that you're chasing or the thing you'd like to have? Can you bring joy into both the pursuit of it and the having it, of course, when it shows up? Can you bring joy into your world right now? And that can be changing things so you have more joy, or changing things in a way you'll know you'll have more joy. It can also just be, how can you bring joy into what you're already doing? Or do you need to tweak things just a little bit to bring more joy into what you're already doing? Or can you just get yourself into generating more joy every day? So that's part of what that means as well. And that's just going to help you generate your life better. The last thing with the snake here, the phrase false idols is showing up here. So let me see what's up with this one. There's a big reminder to pay attention to the vibration of the people you are listening to, the voices you're listening to outside of you. And I mean more like, well, what does that mean specifically? People. Like pay attention to, like, if someone's on YouTube telling you how to make money, like what's their vibration? Do they have an abundant vibration? Are they in joy? Are they contracted and in fear? Do they hate life? And you can tell those things through vibration and reading energy, and just you can get what's for the highest good for you to know about people, intuitively and from your spirit guides and things like that, depending on where you're at. That's just like an important key to discernment right now is the vibration of the people you're listening to. And sure, maybe sometimes there's a person who's not quite at your level, but they have really good things to say in a certain area that can shift things for you. And it can be important to listen to your guides and what you listen to. Other times there are people at a vibration where you shouldn't be listening to them at all. It's just going to bring you down, and it's just not a worldview that's helpful. So pay attention to vibration this week, especially with anyone who's talking to you about anything or giving you advice or anything like that. The snake then in my intuitive visuals goes to form an infinity sign here. I'll mention Archangel Michael just showed up, though. Was that for you guys or for me? Both. Okay. So there's a snake and an infinity sign showing up here. They're also showing me this is going to be a bit of a throwback and maybe a bit of a reach as far as a reference, but the Wheel of Time book series is showing up as well, which is interesting. So let me see what's up with the snake and the Wheel of Time series here. Here's a really interesting message. Time is evolving. So the relationship with time for you guys is evolving is what I'm hearing. So for some of you, and I'll just say what I'm hearing, some of you might be working on this or realizing this, like you can control time a certain amount, or you might be figuring out how to do certain things where you can maybe slow time down for yourself or speed it up, or maybe you're playing with that, or maybe you'll be realizing more of what time actually is for you and how to play with it more. So one of the main messages, though, is in one way, shape, or form, your relationship with time is changing. So maybe if it's a simpler way for you, you'll just be more punctual, or you'll realize how to manage your time better. And for others of you, it could be a bit more, is esoteric the right word, where you're playing with how to manipulate time, or manipulate's a weird word for people, I realize. How to play with time a bit more, things like that, how to stretch time. So we'll see how that shows up. That's a really interesting one. And I'm curious to see. I'm wondering what will show up for your different ones of you as the week progresses and as that kind of shows up for you guys here. And for some of you, it's just showing things speeding up. It's like you're accelerating your healing, and you're maybe even accelerating. What's the best way to say this? The things you need to learn, and it could be in a way with ease too. Or because I was going to say like the lessons, but I feel like it can be with ease. It doesn't have to be like really difficult things all at once. It's kind of like you're expediting things and accelerating your process to just have more quickly. And that's a really abundant thing. So congratulate yourself if that's you, where things are showing up that way, where you're just accelerating your healing, accelerating maybe your abundance or your process, or however that's showing up for you. And, you can always ask for more of that. So moving to number 1, they gave me the word celebration. So there are either things coming in to celebrate, or it's time to begin celebrating, which is cool. So There's a lot of work you've done that's coming to fruition. If you've been putting work into you or your world, especially to improve things, you're going to start seeing dividends, is what came through. The other side of this message is to look at what you can celebrate right now and to begin celebrating it and begin appreciating it and being appreciative of it so you can begin to have even more to celebrate. So, different ones of you might resonate with different parts of that or both of those. And well, the third thing here, the message is both. There will be things coming in you will celebrate, and it's time to celebrate what you have. Okay. So let's talk about celebration and celebration energy. A lot of you will just be celebrating. It's like in the air, which is awesome. How does it get even better than that for all of us? And as you celebrate things and stay in that energy, it can attract more celebration to you or more things to celebrate to you. So, can you stay in that energy? Or, I believe this came through. We talked about it in an earlier channel advice on the week ahead. We can revisit it briefly here. Anyways, it's like the more you kind of start to celebrate your life and things in your life and things that bring you joy and celebrate every day and celebrate more things, you're going to have more to celebrate. I mean, because you're putting your focus there. So it attracts it in and it just attracts it in, you know? And that energy of celebration can be such a joy in and of itself. It can really enhance your life experience. And there's this thing I picked up where it was like, it's like the beginning of each day, you could say, just for today, I will celebrate my life. And I think I picked that up from somewhere in Access Consciousness, which I know some people like, some people don't. And it's a whole thing. Just do what works for you and what your divine guidance says to do, and you'll be fine, you know, honestly, and follow your knowing with everything. And, you know, don't follow like them specifically in everything they say. It's like follow your intuition, divine guidance, and knowing. Okay. And same with me. I will always aim to do my highest and best I can do, or do my darnest to be fully accurate and bring through what's highest and best for the highest good for you. Follow your knowing. Okay. That's honestly the best way to do it, is what I'm hearing to say. So, anyways, when you set that intention and you begin celebrating things every day, life becomes a celebration because you're like, oh, I'm alive today. I can celebrate that. If you feel good that day, oh, I feel good. My body feels good. I can celebrate that. Oh, I'm having a meal I really like. I can celebrate that. It reminds me of another thing, which is really acknowledging your wins. So even if it's like you're starting really simple. You're like getting out of bed. That's a win. I got out of bed on time. Awesome. I didn't lay in bed for 2 hours and scroll on TikTok. I got out of bed. That's a win. And maybe even if you did, you know, stay in bed and scroll on TikTok for 2 hours, that's a win. You have maybe the free time to do that. So that could be a win too in a weird way. Or like you ate healthy today. That's a win. And as you keep saying that's a win, that's a win, that's a win, and acknowledging your wins, more wins start to show up. And you'll notice that like this energy of winning showing up, and maybe even an energy of success showing up, and maybe even an energy of celebration. So can you use those tools today, and maybe whenever you feel guided to begin to shift things and call in more of those things? Because your attention and focus can create your experience, and it can create more of, you know, the things you're paying attention to and focusing on. Usually. And there can be some caveats to that. They're saying it might not be a hard and fast rule 24/7 or something you need to freak out about. If you watch one panel of the news and something violent happens, it's like you're okay. um it's more like, can you remember that principle and start to create better with it if it resonates for you, is kind of what they're saying to have me say for you. Okay. So things to celebrate coming in, and can you start celebrating things more and create more to celebrate? And may it be both, you know. So there's more on number one before we move on here. Try setting that intention every day. Just for today, I will celebrate my life. Try acknowledging your wins, every win for a single day, and see like what shifts energetically as you do it throughout the day. And if you like it, maybe keep doing it every day. Because sometimes those small things and potentially big things we do every day really changes the trajectory and course of our life in a big way if we start really compounding the effects of what it's doing for us every day. It's kind of like putting money in the bank or an investment and seeing how much it multiplies over time. And it can be greater than that too, you know. Uh, if we're looking at like a long term, like index fund investment type thing. Um, but it can compound and really create something really big. over time, or maybe even right away, depending on where you're at with everything when you start doing these things. So, what can you add into your everyday to change things is something I'll challenge you to think of or intuit on as well. And if your guides give you something, I'd really encourage you to do it, or if your intuition says something. So, number two here, how can you be more light? This message is twofold. One, how can you be more of a light in the world, spreading light and spreading sources work, however you are meant to? This can be big or small. This could be sharing a smile on the street, doing a good deed for someone that you're called to do, or following your intuition to put a project into the world, or it could be a really big, drastic, positive thing too. Second part is how can you become lighter energetically? What are the things, paths, directions, jobs, people, etc., that make you lighter? And can you keep going towards those things? Your best life is paved with a path of light, both in spreading and receiving light, and in becoming lighter and making your world lighter. Did let me to read that again. Your best life is paved with a path of light, both in spreading and receiving light, and in becoming lighter and making your world lighter, even just on a personal level. So, can you choose the things that make you lighter? So you can look at light how you look at it in a more, the words I'm hearing are traditional spiritual sense, where it's like, oh, yes, bringing love and joy to people, or creating something that will bring love and joy to people, or laughter and light, or artwork that can change people, or whatever, is something else that's coming to be said. Um, if you're an artist and you paint art that's high vibrational, or it just makes people think differently, or something like that, in a good way, whatever that's showing up like, that's beautiful and that's needed, and the world needs a lot of that right now. So the more light you can bring in a sustainable way that is for the highest good for you as well, the better. Not in a way where you're draining yourself, exhausting yourself, and sacrificing yourself for the world, because that's the words I'm hearing are a dying archetype, and it's not the way. It's a way of stupidity is the way I'm specifically hearing to say it right now. Like the words they're specifically flashing to me as well are sacrifice is not needed. So let's stop playing that story and move on to something that's a bit more benevolent to ourselves and the world and other people, and count ourselves as part of the world, and count ourselves as mattering, and value ourselves and our body and our time and our energy. Okay. That's probably a healthy and good thing to do, because again, I was going to go a direction they didn't want me to. I'll remind you, you're a part of the world. So if you have more happiness, the world has more happiness. Okay. As you get lighter, the world gets lighter. So when you're sacrificing yourself, even if it's to improve the world, like what's that really doing for the world as a whole? What's that actually creating? And is it what we'd actually like? And if it's not going to create what we'd like, what would actually create what we'd like? And let's do that instead, which is probably this more along the lines of not sacrificing yourself for other people. Okay. So beat that to a pulp. So spreading light in a traditional sense, or whether it's energy healing, or maybe it's channeling for people, because that's working with light. That's channeling through a higher vibration, maybe to put it minimally. If you channel, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, second part is how can you become lighter energetically? So that is pretty simple as well. Like if you're energy sensitive or aware and you realize that, and you know what that's like, you probably have heard my guide say this, or me talk about this, or maybe even other people talk about this, but you can know what it's going to be like when you choose certain things based on the energy you get. So you can kind of either like walk yourself into the situation and see like, how does your body feel? How do your energies feel? You can ask a question like, what will it be like if I choose this, and just get the energy of what it will be like. You can ask source for the energy of what it will be like if you choose something. And like, what are the paths and choices, even that you make every day, that make you lighter and feel lighter to you energetically? Like, does this job feel light, or does getting a new job feel light, or does staying in the job I'm in feel lighter? And just whatever feels lighter, that's probably a good direction to go. That's going to create more lightness for you, and it's going to create better for you and for the world. So that's what the second part is talking about, or like, what are the exercises that make you lighter? What are the paths, directions, jobs, people, things you watch, things you choose that make you lighter? And can you discern that and start choosing more of that, so your world gets lighter and you get lighter, and you're bringing more lightness to the world and to you, honestly, because you're worth it just on your own. And I would hope you believe that as well. So that's kind of it for number two. Can you do that this week? And honestly, that second part definitely sounds like good advice for any time. I think sometimes, what would be for me to say here? Sometimes what I've noticed comes through for these videos are things that could be good reminders anytime. However, if it's coming through specifically for the week ahead and it's coming through for you who are seeing it, there's probably a reason for that too. So definitely keep it in mind for this week as well. Number three, how can you let go of the world and focus on your world? This came through for like November, I believe. The channel message is on November and maybe the past couple weeks even. So I'd say it's important. Here's what they said. We've said it before and we will say it again. Being overly focused on the outside world is a distraction. If all your time and attention are sucked away to the woes of the world, how is that helping you create your best life and create a better world? It's time to unplug from the outside world and plug into you. What would make your world a greater place? Do that. Do it. And then the next line, where can you put your attention where it would actually make the world a greater place? And answer that intuitively. If you channel, have your guides tell you, if you work with your intuition, see what comes to you and write it down, maybe put it out on a wall. And please do it because it might be something you do every day. It could be something else. And it could be like your cat. It's just like pet your cat for an hour seems excessive. I was going to make a joke about a cat trying to sneak a channel message in about petting cats, but that's not how that works. So don't worry about that. um, so maybe it's petting your cat for 5 minutes or just having love for your pet and sending love to your pet. Maybe it's Reiki if you facilitate Reiki and it's doing a longer self session every day and focusing more on the joy that Reiki brings you. Maybe it's a friend and maybe they're telling you to hang out with a friend once a week or try to put together a get together with friends that light you up. Yeah, something like that, whatever you get, I would definitely do that. The question again is where can you put your attention where it would actually make the world a greater place? And that should be below in the description as well. I tend to put at least most or a portion of the channel messages in the description as it fits. So, number four, when pigs fly, how can you shift your beliefs in order for you to allow things you'd like to have that haven't seemed to be showing up? This is something I've been working on lately and it works, okay? I might go through some belief shifting stuff with you today in this video because I think they told me to. We'll get to that in a second though. So, an example, can you shift a belief that things take a long time to manifest? And if you shift that belief and shift that story, all of a sudden things can show up a lot faster. No, it's not a promise that your ask for $1 million or $10 million is going to show up tomorrow if you shift it, because maybe the bigger asks do still take some time, though they can happen. So it's not like give up on those bigger asks. However, what if you shift that belief and then it does show up really soon? Like, how does it get any better than that? So that's just an example. Can you shift a belief that you can't have money or it's wrong to have money or people will hate you if you have money? Because that's not necessarily true. And that might be a painful one to look at for some of you because maybe you've kept money at bay from some of yourselves, which I don't recommend, for a long time. And are you willing to shift it anyways and allow yourself to have more money, which you can have, by the way, and it will probably make your world a greater place? How can you shift your beliefs to change your reality? So, let's talk about a couple ways you can do the belief shifting thing. And I'm borrowing some of these from a couple different places. We'll go through 3 different exercises. You're getting a bonus today. How's it getting better than this? Okay. The first one I originally got from, well, my girlfriend Kat, who you've probably seen on the Channeling Stories podcast, if you listen to that, told me about this one. And I believe the gist of it's from the Pleiadian workbook, Activating Your Divine Kai, which I highly recommend for the exercises, excuse me. And there are some things in the book where it's like I'll read it and there's something a little bit more fear-based. And then my guys are like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. But then the exercises, so awesome. Okay. So I'm just letting you know, just a heads up. It's worth reading through. And you can find it as a free, if you Google free download, it's like a free download on like a bunch of like university websites or something like that. So like free PDF, or you can buy the book if you feel called to, whatever works for you. Anyways, what I heard about that exercise is you get like a visualization of the belief. Okay. So maybe let me see if my guides will give me an example for a belief that, and this is just an example. You can do this with whatever comes up for you. What's a belief here? let's do one like it's hard to have money, okay? Or money is hard, which is going to make it probably show up in your reality. So it's really hard for you to have money. You have to work really hard for money. You have to go through hard things to have money. It's not fun, okay? So let's say that belief comes up. You realize you believe money is hard. So you can stamp or write like void on in the visual. Okay, you're visualizing it. You see that belief. It could be on a piece of paper. It could just show up in some way, like there's a picture, a symbol of it, right? Void on it. And if it's on a piece of paper or however you see it, tear it in half, or you could just visualize it being torn in half, or ask the angels to tear it in half, or visualize an angel tearing it in half, whatever works for you. Then you put it in like the violet flame. Like you could see like a bowl with the violet flame, and you put that paper in there or whatever image was representing that belief in there. Okay. And it's an intention, it's energy work. You're going to feel it shift, especially if you're energetically aware as you're doing this. Okay. And you'll feel things shifting and it might be uncomfortable. But that will do it, okay? That will actually begin to clear those beliefs. And I'm going to borrow from another place to go further if I'm guided to. They'd like me to talk about something else instead, okay? So that's one way you could do it. That's one exercise for shifting beliefs that come up. One thing that can be helpful for you if you channel or work with your intuition is just if there's a place you seem blocked, you can literally just ask for what are my beliefs in this area? Like, what do I believe about money? And just channel that down. And you might be very surprised by what comes through, like the one we just talked about. Um, but once you're aware of that and you begin shifting it and doing the exercise to shift it, then something different can show up in your reality. And that's the work. Okay. So that will be helpful for you. So they'd like to talk about, we're going to talk about a couple different ways to do this and different things. Valuka next, or what are we going to talk about something else? So let me see what's up with this. Okay. So one of the symbols from Valuka, which isn't in the art store, it's Togani, Togani with an accent over it. And you don't need to see the symbol for this to work here because you can work with the symbol with just the name. So if you notice a belief like that, and what Togani means is it's like discreate what's for the highest good to be discreated on steroids. Like, so it's pretty potent with discreating and things like that. So it's like everything that allows that belief to exist, Togani. And you could say it 3 times if that works for you. Togani, Togani, Togani. Or if like you write, okay, so feeling the energy shift as I say it, you might be feeling that too. Woo, all right. So you can use that. You can use that one to shift things. Another alternative, nope, they don't want me to talk about that one next. The other thing so you can do that too. Like, especially if you channel the things down and like you have it written down, you can just be like, okay, everything that allows that to exist, Togani, 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 or write Togani, Togani, Togani under it, or not. If you know the symbol, you can draw it. I don't think a lot of you, if any of you know that symbol yet though. Beyond that, you can use the Access Consciousness clearing statement in a similar way. Again, I'm not really affiliated with Access. I haven't really, gone through any of their practitioner classes or anything like that, but it's all out there for free. You can, if you go to there's stuff you can find where they explain all this and talk about it as well. But you could use it in a similar way where it's like, you notice a belief, you're like, okay, everything that allows this belief to exist, and then like run the clearing statement. So I'll give you an example. So everything that allows this belief to exist, I uncreate and destroy. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, povads, bases, and beyonds is the recent one. Ooh, and that one works too, okay? You could feel that one working. And I know it sounds weird, and it's a lot of weird words, but it works, okay? And again, that's not my modality. That's not something I channeled through. That's Access Consciousness. You can look that up. They explain it, I think, in the clearingstatement.com you can go to. That's another option for this. And then there was a method I got for belief clearing for the source fires modality, which is a modality I channeled through. And I can't really teach it totally here, because if you haven't taken the 4 angelic fires class, you won't know about those fires to work with for belief clearing. It's another option though. What I can do to give you something similar that you could work with without having gone through the class is if you do like, I guess any of the options, but like, let's take that first one, for example, where you rip the belief in half and you put it in the violet flame. You can ask the angels, ask source, or visualize an angelic white light in the space or where the belief was occupied energetically. And you could just receive that as an intuitive visual, or just ask the angels to do that and then feel where it goes and what happens. Or, if it might just show up in a lot of different ways intuitively for different ones of you. or in like a channeled channeled visual for you guys. So however that shows up is perfect. And that's is meant to install an optimal belief for the highest good in place of the belief that was cleared. Though you can also do that manually, I guess. And this is where we borrow from yet another place. It's Creating Money, Keys to Abundance, and it's by Sanaya Roman and Dwayne Packer, and they channeled the book. So some of you might be familiar with it already, so others not. It's more of a recent book for me, though it's an older book. Okay, just to give you that heads up. However, one thing they talk about is if you clear a belief, you can create one that's the opposite of the belief that was there before. So instead of, you could have like money is easy. Making a lot of money is easy. Money comes in for me with ease. Money is easy for me. Something like that. You could write that down. You can like put it on a mirror where you're seeing it all the time and you're like reciting it to yourself and putting more energy into that being your new belief. So, or you can channel and get an intuited one for you that's like for your highest good. Like, oh, hey, what would be for the highest good instead? Oh, I have total ease with money. Great. I have total ease with money. I have total ease with money. And you start, make the ask, manifest it, write it down, start to install that belief and move things in your reality that direction. Okay. So that's a number of ways you can do that. I'm sure there are more out there. There's another one they'd like to talk about to go further with the Valuka example. After you use Togani, you can use Vastu, okay, which is in the art store. You can go to valuart.com and look for the Vastu one. And it kind of looks like a bowl with looks like a bowl with some like swirlies and a line in the center. Good one. And that's is meant to bring in the highest and best energy that's for the highest good to come into replace an energy that's cleared or a belief in this instance. So there are multiple ways you can do this, okay, if this is not abundantly cleared. And the other thing they're adding in is if you want to add an additional Valuka symbol, you can do Festu, then Vastu. So Togani, 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 and then Festu, 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 and then Vastu, Vastu, Vastu. You can find Festu and Vastu on valuart.com. And Festu means destroy and rebuild for the highest good. And Festu and Vastu are also there's like a Valuka audio loop that's on my website, though they don't want me to get into that right now. But it's in the membership if you're in the membership, and it's like $7 on my website. So it's for energy clearing and cleaning for the highest good. And that's another utilization for those symbols. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this talk on how to clear beliefs. And are we ready to move on yet? And maybe I'll put timestamps in the video so people who already know how to do this can skip it. But anyways, number 5, you are the source. How can you change you to change everything? This week is about self-healing for you, self-recovery, and self-sustainability. The universe is calling you to work with it to shift you, to shift everything that's showing up for you for the better. Are you ready to put in the work? And the work doesn't have to necessarily be hard. It can have ease to it. It'll show up how it will show up. Are you ready to put in the work to change your reality, change your life, change you? And hopefully it's a yes. If it's a no, okay. What will it take for it to be a yes? Or what will be the right time for it to be a yes? You don't have to beat up on yourself. Just intuitively, you're probably getting a yes, though, for most of you, if you are checking it intuitively. Next part here, what are the things you can do for self-balance every day? What are the things you can put in place every day that will begin to change things for you? It's time to start showing up differently. So this goes back to this part, what we talked about earlier with like doing things every day that move the needle for you, that, manifest certain things that bring you in a certain direction, and really keeping up with them, especially if you're guided to, like if your guides, well, what's an example here? If your guides say, hey, if you do this every day, things are going to shift in a really big, beautiful way, it might be time to start doing those things and really commit to it and commit to things changing in the ways you'd like to see it. For example, if it's abundance, if you're trying to, if you'd like more abundance and your guides are like, hey, do this every day to bring in more abundance, I would show your commitment by doing that thing every day. And it could show up right away. Whether it shows up right away or not, just keep doing it and notice the shifts, acknowledge the shifts, ask for more, as it starts happening. Because that's one of your keys to abundance that at that point, is doing that thing, or it's going to shift something for you or do something for you to bring you towards it. So it's important to listen. Actually, they'd like to segue into that really quickly. Actually, after this. Okay. So we'll segue into that in a second here about listening, because there's something important I felt called to talk about. Anyways, so this also like number 5 here, we're gonna get into both points again. This week is about self-healing for you, reminds me of the space message earlier, and they're connecting the dots for me about it being about the space. Like, can you take space for self-healing and digging into some of the things that show up and doing the things for you that are gonna move the needle for you? And yeah, so the universe is calling you to work with it to shift everything that's showing up for you for even better. That seems to call it could call to any number of the things we talked about or other things showing up in your world, but the belief clearing, makes sense for that. The showing up every day for what you can do for self-balance, the what can you put your attention on to change things for you for the highest good potentially, though maybe that's a bit different or separate as a message. Mm, Going to the self balance every day, like again, if you're like a Reiki practitioner, can you balance your chakras every day and keep yourself in balance? Can you ask intuitively, what will bring me balance if I do it every day? And then start doing that thing. Is it nutrition based that you get intuitively is going to start to bring more balance to your day? Is it an energetic thing? Is it a meditation? Is it putting something on YouTube that's meant to bring balance to you or like a chakra balancing singing bowl or something, whatever works for you, it couldn't hurt to initiate it and begin to bring balance your way because that is one of the things that can move the needle for you. Like we talked about, like what can you do every day to change things? Like that's kind of along that vein as well. So the universe is starting to give you tools to and ideas for like how to change your reality and how to move the needle in those areas and like what you can do and what you can start to look into. And the question is, I guess, will you do it? And will you commit to the changes you'd like to see in your world, whether it's easy or difficult, or it takes a lot of work or very little work, or it takes looking into 5 different resources, or I'm not to put this on you or create you having to look into 20 different resources, but a number of different things, or just one. And can you keep showing up for yourself and for that? And it kind of segues into what we were going to get to is listen. And there's a whole story they'd like me to tell you. Okay. So listening is key for everybody, and you could see it linked in with receptivity because you're receiving the messages and what the universe is saying and things like that. And the more intuitive you get, the easier this gets too, with listening to the universe and what you're hearing and what you're getting. I watched a reading, and the reading talked about listening differently. And so that's what I did. I asked my guides how I could listen differently, and I did it. And I got new information, and it really changed things. So I'm going to borrow from that reading, I guess. And because that's what they're kind of telling me is how can you listen more? And if you're not getting where you'd like to go, how can you potentially listen more and differently and really pay attention to and I'll give the reader a shout out in a second here too. Uh, Anna Anthony's her name. So really great reader. Highly recommend if you would like a tarot reading to book with her. She's great. And anyways, Anna's Synergy Healing on Facebook if you wanted to know where to go. Okay. As you sit and listen and like pay attention, the universe gives you everything you need and tells you everything you need. So if you're banging your head against a wall in something, whether it's business or it's a friendship or it's a relationship, it's like, can you really sit back and pay attention to like, where is this telling me to go? Or what's this trying to tell me? And really give space for the messages to come in, the intuition to come in. Really pay attention to the resources the universe is giving you as far as, I mean, in general, and even as far as like the messages and what to do next. Like that example, if a reading shows up and gives you something that could be a piece of what the universe is trying to, give you, or something that leads to, or a key that leads to what you're trying to bring in for you if you listen to it and really make the shifts. So it's something I've been paying attention to more, and something I feel called to talk about is just like, I guess it sounds a little bit cheesy maybe, but listening within and listening to your intuition, your divine guidance, the universe, and really not being headstrong against it. Just really being willing to listen because it does tell you what to do and where to go if you give it the time of day and the space it needs, whether that's very little, depending on where you're at, or a lot to show up for you. And can you listen more this week and every day and take space to listen to see maybe what you're guided to do each day. If you're at that place to receive that information, if you're not, that's okay. Um, can you give space for the way information does come your way, whether it's through readings right now, or it's through signs and synchronicities, whether it's through things your friends say that are synchronistic when they phone you up and you're like, oh, yeah, I was thinking about doing that. And now my friend's talking about it. Now this person over here is talking about it. I guess I'll try this thing. I guess I'll do yoga, for example. So really listen, okay? Because the universe is talking and it's talking to you and it really wishes to speak and hand you keys and hand you abundance and like shift you and shift things for you because the universe is abundant and the universe does want and desire. The universe would like what's best for us, and the universe would like to give and gift to us. And I guess one of the questions or two of the questions are will we listen and will we receive? And will we allow that? Three. And if you're willing to do that, you can have it. So ask, listen, receive, allow. I guess it's a bit more, what's the best way to say it? Because they're showing me like the yin and yang, and I forget which one's yin and which one's yang. I think yin is the chill, the more chill one is maybe not the most descriptive way to put it. It can be a little bit more potentially internal, though. If you're listening and taking action on the listening, you are incorporating a certain amount of action with the listening, with what you put into the world when you listen to. Um, but depending on where you're at, it can require some stillness. So please give that to yourself. They're pretty much done, unless there's anything else I'd like to slide in last second. There's a dragon showing up. There's a bat showing up. There's spirit animal central showing up. There's a jungle. There's like a rhino beetle thing. So what's up with all the spirit animals showing up here? With dragon, as it is usually when dragon shows up, more magic. So can you be as magic as you can be and let the magic in because that's going to shift things? So can you set intentions for magic? Acknowledge the magic that shows up for you and ask for more. Maybe ask how it gets any better every time magic shows up. And just allow yourself to be magic because that's going to shift things and you're meant to be magic. If you're here, you're meant to be magic, okay? The rhino beetle is about strength because, beetles, they're, a lot of people talk about how different bugs have like 50 times their own body weight and strength. Their beetles are usually talked about as really strong. So can you push through some of the things that come up this week if you're moving towards abundance, move towards abundance, or if you move towards love, move towards love, or as you go to do your work, if things come up, can you start to get curious about that and dig into that instead of getting mad and giving up? But can you have fortitude with some of the things that come up that are maybe the barriers to what you'd like to have? And can you be a bit flexible with that and trust the universe will get you there at the right time? So it's asking for resilience, it's asking for the right amount of fortitude right now. And I guess that's all they'd like to say. They just gave me a timer, said time's up, ding, and then they're like, that's all. So I hope that helped, resonated to whatever was for your highest good. If you'd like to go further with my work, I do have my website, brandonhbloom.com, but there's a new offer and it's exclusive for this season we're in, I guess, through December. And it's channeled and intuitive readings on 2025, though it's delivered to you as a video that I am filming per order per person. So you get your own personal channeled and intuitive reading video that's an hour long. There's a link that will be emailed to you with a Dropbox file to it. And this is new for me. First year I'm doing it. So if you'd like a channeled reading on the year ahead, maybe get a leg up, get some information, get some channeled advice for the highest good for you on the year ahead in 2025, I'll have a link below to check that out directly. It'll take you to the landing page, which will give you more information on it, and you can choose whether or not to buy it if it feels right for you or not. Just to let you know, I'm not allowing any sales of it past the end of December. So you have, till the end of December to choose it. And there will be a limit so far of 25 slots just to ensure it doesn't get out of hand. So I'm not trying to catch up with like a bajillion readings and squeeze it in to the end of the year. And I can take enough time with them, or as much time as would be for the highest good, and allow them to be the best they can be. And so I'm not burnt out, but that's available now on my website or through the link below. It'll be down there in the description, probably underneath the website link. And beyond that, of course, I have a lot more available. There's the Let's Go Higher membership. There's channeled MP3s. There's other, channeled intuitive readings with me over Zoom. If you'd prefer that instead, I'll let you explore that if you feel called to it. I'll just invite you to it. And if it feels right or if you feel called to it, you can find all the links below. And I hope you do have a phenomenal week. And if you feel called to go further with my work or book with me, I look forward to channeling it for you or working with you there for the highest good. Okay.